What could India expect from a second Trump administration in terms of economic policy? I mean, there were friction points in the first Trump administration.
Yes, oh yes, I remember them vividly.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, there's always going to be trade friction between the United States and India. You write it down. It's natural that nations want to protect things that are theirs, including we want to do the same thing. So that piece is untroubling. I think the best way, we're talking about something that may or may not happen, the best way to think about what a second Trump administration would look like is to go back to the facts and data about the first one. By the time you get to be my age, right, things don't change. Your worldviews are pretty set. And so when I think about the work that we did alongside India in the national security space, in the economic space, on the global stage as well, I suspect that the second Trump administration would adopt a set of policies that aren't dissimilar from that. That includes, if you read a book by a fellow named Robert Lighthizer, talks about tariffs and their economic benefit to the United States of America. I have a somewhat different view of that. But it is something that President Trump used in his first term, and I have every expectation he will continue to use that tool in his second term as well. Maybe different, it'll certainly be different for different countries, but the idea of developing a deepening bilateral trade relationship with India was something that was central to our effort for our 4 years. I suspect if President Trump were to be reelected, that would continue to be the case.
And will he have a second term?
Oh, goodness. You all see the same data I do. I don't predict. It'll be very close. It'll be competitive. There'll be a half a dozen states where it will be material to the outcome. I'm hopelessly biased. I think that the American people are radically better off with a President Trump than they would be in a second term of President Biden. It probably doesn't surprise anybody that I think that. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful the American people will elect President Trump, and we will begin to build America's place, its leadership in the world in the same way we did, and that the American economy will continue to accelerate in the way that it was before COVID was unleashed in the beginning of 2020.
Well, a Trump second term may be viewed favorably here in India from New Delhi's point of view, but how may it be viewed from Beijing, from Riyadh, from Tel Aviv, from Kiev, and of course from Moscow?
Oh my goodness. They gave me half a dozen. They would be very different answers. Where do you want me to start?
No, will the world be worried, especially given what we saw in the first 4 years of Trump? Should the world be worried how his presidency, if at all there is a second term, his presidency may shape these relationships?
Yeah. No, the world should be thrilled. I mean, how many wars started for those 4 years? Anybody got an idea? Zero. Yeah, zero. We now have a major conflagration in Europe, continuing now 2 years on. We have the most horrific act that I have seen in my adult lifetime. What Hamas did, what the Iranian leadership did to those women on October 7th in the southern part of the Negev desert is unlike anything I've ever seen. And I've seen, as CI director, I've seen an awful lot. This didn't happen under President Trump's watch. Instead, we built peace and prosperity. We built what became called the Abraham Accords. We had 4 nations declare that they were no longer going to be hostile to the nation of Israel. We knew that Jerusalem was the rightful capital of Israel. Basic things that most of the people said, this will cause World War III. I remember, I was there. Mike, if you strike Qasem Soleimani, World War III will ensue. The truth is, just the opposite happened. We saw the entire world come to say, those people are serious. And they are going to defend the things that they promised to defend. Vladimir Putin didn't take an inch of Ukraine on our watch. He took a fifth of Ukraine under President Obama, and then he stopped. And then he went back at it again just a few months after we left. I know, New York Times, CNN, International, they'll tell you it was just pure luck. Fair enough. Maybe we did have good luck. Maybe the good Lord was with us. We can ascribe it to whatever we want, but I know it happened. Afghanistan didn't fall under President Trump. Right? These are things that we can factually present that are indisputable about the world being better off. So when you ask, Should the world be worried about President Trump? I think the world will be fundamentally more prosperous and more secure were President Trump to be given a second term, another 4 years. Here's what I can say with certainty. Vladimir Putin had a fundamentally different perception of America when President Trump was in office. He just did. You can argue about why. Mean tweets. You just describe it however you choose to describe it. But the reality was that the missiles that saved Kyiv, the very Javelin missiles that were fired that saved Kyiv the night that they almost lost it, does anybody in this room know who provided those missiles to the Ukrainian people? Which president? It wasn't President Obama. He refused to do it. Had President Obama or his successor been elected in 2016, there would have been no Ukrainian defense that night from Javelin missiles. President Trump allowed those missiles to be delivered.